Good afternoon. Welcome. Welcome to the Poetry Foundation on this beautiful Chicago summer Saturday afternoon when there are so many things to do in town. I'm really glad that you are here and wish to give you a very warm welcome. My name is Idalmi Noriega, and I am Vice President of Programs here at the Poetry Foundation. And I'd like to welcome you to Ragdale in Chicago, a panel about Ragdale and a performance featuring Avery R. Young. Like I said, my name is, yes. My name, like I said, is Idalmi. My pronouns are she, her. And as a visual description, I am a Black woman with short curly hair. And today I'm wearing a black dress with gray, little gray flowers on it. Thank you all for being here this afternoon and for continuing to help us all stay safe. Please, we're asking you to keep your mask on during the time that you're in the program. We will mostly do that on stage 2 whenever we're not up here, or we will do it ourselves whenever we're not up here is what I meant to say. We would appreciate if you do the same. We would like to begin by recognizing that the Poetry Foundation building is situated on the occupied homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the Odawa nations, among other indigenous nations. We recognize that a land acknowledgement is not sufficient, and it is the bare minimum we can do to recognize the colonial structures in which we are complicit. A few notes about accessibility. Live captioning and ASL interpretation will be available on the screen here to my right and to your left. If you have any questions or issues, please find a Poetry Foundation staff member and they will assist you. There are some folks in the back of the room and also when you entered by reception. As you entered this room, you may have noticed a door between the two doors that are the entrance to this space. That door leads to our quiet space in which you are welcome to use at any point during the program if you need some time away from the performance. Please stick to water only in this room, but if you need a snack, the quiet space or outside is a great place to enjoy a snack. Finally, we invite you to treat this as a relaxed space. Feel free to do what you need to make your body and your mind more at ease. Feel free to come and go if you need to use the restroom, take a phone call, or do whatever else may come up. And at this time, we're asking you just take a moment to make yourself 10% more comfortable. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Sam Lewis of Ragdale.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Idalmi. Appreciate your hospitality and the Poetry Foundation's hospitality here. My name is Sam Lewis. I am the Director of Communications and Engagement at Ragdale. I go by he, him pronouns. And a visual description, I am a Black man with, I won't say bald, but short hair. And I'm wearing a red shirt, khaki pants, and I have a really cool bracelet that I got for Father's Day on my right wrist. Very happy to be here and really excited about the Poetry Foundation's gracious gift of a poetry-themed fellowship at Ragdale starting in 2023. And so that is what brings us here today. And when I say us, I mean myself and my colleague, Regina Gloria, Ragdale's Director of Education. And we also have Michael Clevenger, our Executive Director, in the audience. And we have one of our interns, Avery Grant, in the audience as well, the other Avery for this evening, for this afternoon. And so, yes. Yeah, she said, I haven't met many Averys, so you all have to definitely, vibe on the Avery front. So yeah, we're really happy and excited to be here and to announce officially this opportunity of this new fellowship, which has a deadline of July 15 at 11:59 p.m. So if you are a poet and have interest in attending a residency at Ragdale, we highly recommend that you apply before 11:59 p.m. on the 15th. We have already passed our regular residency application deadline for all of the other residencies and fellowships for 2023. So we made an extension, an exception, so that we could officially launch it here at the foundation and try to encourage more people to apply, even though in a year in 2022, we have received a lot of applications for this particular fellowship so far. And that was expected because there is a strong need for time and space in the wake of COVID and all that it brought to us, where we had time at home by ourselves, but it wasn't the exact right all the time and space that we needed in order to be able to create as artists. And I can attest to the power of a residency at Ragdale. I was a resident in 2018, and it was very transformative for me. And I'm still really living off of the energy and the work that I created during that time. And so when it came time to be at the Poetry Foundation, one person quickly came to mind when we wanted to bring someone here who has a deep and strong connection to Poetry Foundation, and also I hope a deep and strong connection to Ragdale as well, which is Mr. Avery R. Young, who was in residence in December of 2019. Imagine that. And tell us about that, Avery.
I am Avery R. Young. I am doing my best business to be fly. and this Diop jacket that is this with this turquoise with this white symbol, yellow, blue pants, and gray tennis shoe. But I'm African American and I have short curly hair. That's what I'm doing with my life. Yes, that's what I'm doing with my life. I call it. I'm right at my Arnold Jackson and Michael Evans length. I'm right in between. I'm right in. That's how I measure my afros by characters on TV. I want to get to Todd. I want to get to Todd. I want to get to Willis. And so, anyway, what was the question? 2019.
Yeah, so how did that residency affect you? First of all, how was your time at Ragdale overall?
Okay.
And then specifically that residency, how did it affect your work? And just give us a little,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Why Ragdale? Why Ragdale? Okay, so that's how Ragdale works out. My time at Ragdale was wonderful. I had a great time. Got work done, which is why you would go to Ragdale. Is to get work done. Well, I'm very disciplined as far as writing is concerned. So it's writing though for me in the city is a bit difficult just because of then my lifestyle, right? I'm going back and forth to poetry readers at the foundation or wherever. My involvement with Rebirth and Loud and the Bomb and all this the um teen poetry slam and teaching and performing with the Deacon Boys. So I'm all over the space. And I live in West Town on like California Avenue, which is the avenue, and like trucks and cars and all that stuff just is constantly moving on that. And to write, I've learned that I require silence and a lot of times another space because the body has memory muscle, right? And the body says you at home. You go bed. Like, no, boy, do not start that damn writing. Go to sleep. Go sleep. You eat, shower, and you sleep here. No. You got to go find somewhere else to work, right? And I was writing Neckbone. I was trying to write Neckbone in the midst of, and I was telling to myself, oh, okay, when it's 9 o'clock, whatever I'm doing in life, I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody, and I'm gonna go home and 10 to 2 or 10 to 3, whatever time I gave myself, I would write. And Neckbone was like, no, you're not. You tired. You've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. You've been on the south side or the west side or the north side, and you kikied and whatever you did. I'm not giving you anything. If you want this book, you gotta make space for it, and you have to be intentional. And that's where Ragdale and other residencies come in. It gives you that space where you are, well, you can be intentional and really, really, really laser focused on getting work. And once I put myself in a situation where I was like, oh, I can't go to dinner tonight, or I can't go see this play, or I can't go to this bout because I'm away. I'm away. The work said, okay, I just sit still and it'll come. And because we're gonna bring it to you. And so that's what happened at Ragdale, and it went up to 2029 was, consequently though, 2 or 3 months later, the city gets shut down. And I've said this to Adam, and like I said to you, so my body was like, oh, he's back on residency. He ain't moving. He ain't going nowhere. He not ripping around in the city. Oh, okay. Well, let me give you some more to write. So, that's the benefit of being in a space where you are still, well, for me, there are a lot of poets or writers who need that works with them. But what is happening with me is not necessarily language that is trying to do the work of screaming over the madness, right? It don't want to do that. It want to say, hey, right? And I need to be somewhere where I can hear it, as opposed as and it's not labor. If you understand it, the listening can become labor if there's so much other noise and space and activity. Just space. It's not necessarily even about noise. But I found myself more productive when I'm at spaces that are quiet, right? As opposed to and who knew? who knew, right? But I thought about it when I was younger. When I would go write, I would go to the bathroom to write, and because when it wasn't like the three sisters and the mama and the TV, and then like the bathroom is a solitary space, right? And that's what I kind of equated. What I've now equated the why residencies make sense to me, because even like as a young person writing, I would go to the bathroom to do it because I found the bathroom to be a silent space and removed from the activity of the rest of the house. Why not your bedroom? Because the radio is blasted in the bedroom, and there's the bed that says go to bed. Boy, right. You can't go
I
sleep in
love
the bed
this
on
story
the toilet stool.
because Gwendolyn Brooks, also as a young girl, used to go into her bathroom in her parents' apartment to write for the same reason. That was like her space. And yes.
Yeah, that's what it was for me. And like I said, and it makes sense of the space of Ragdale, and when Ragdale specifically, it's not I was explaining this to Michael earlier that yeah, it's not like going to the Baldwin residency in France or the other residencies that are out there, but Park Forest is still in a space that is separate enough that you feel away, right? And and yeah, and that's the coolness of Rag. They're not like, and I've been there many times with other writers coming from other places in the world, and it's the same. It's the same thing. It's just it's a way, and a lot of that sometimes in the process of writing that is that is needed. And when you just somewhere and all you have to do is like sleep, eat at 6 o'clock with Linda. Chef Linda, Chef Linda makes it look 6 o'clock. It's gonna be ready. Not 5:59. 6 o'clock. It's gonna be ready. Be here at 6 o'clock. And the food is ready, and then you have then the opportunity to also engage with other writers and creatives who are there doing the same thing you're doing. They're looking for this space in order to play and work, right? And so that's it's an invaluable space. I'm so excited for this partnership um, because so many poets that I talk to in Chicago are not even aware of a space like Ragdale, or that it exists. So it's an opportunity, right, to really focus on the genre of poetry itself and poets coming in. Because again, a lot of poets find a quiet space, but they don't. They think residencies are for fiction writers and other kinds of writers, right? But it's definitely cool for poets too, and coming from the spoken word world, right, where the residency is more like the activity of writing a poem to then perform at an open mic, and that's a work in residence, right? And so it's very different, right, to then to take that spoken word poet from that ritual of writing a thing to then perform on stage to give them a space where like you can really stretch out and figure out the feature as opposed to your feature presentation as opposed to just the poem the 3 to 5 minutes you get on stage at an open mic.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, so you were a fellow and you would have been a perfect Poetry Foundation fellow. And but I did want to ask you, Dalmi, so thank you, first of all, for doing this. But why did you do this and why did you choose Ragdale? And how does funding these fellowships fit in with your overall mission of supporting poets and the community?
Absolutely. I'm really appreciate that question. I think so much of what Avery spoke about is the reason why we are doing this. Um, Many poets don't think of residencies as a thing, a place that's available to them. So we wanted to start changing that. But also the idea of there are many, many, many ways to support poets. And this idea of providing an opportunity to go to a place where the creative practice of poetry is centered and you're away from all the other aspects of your life, whether it's parenthood, whether it's caretaking of other ways, whether it's your 9 to 5 job, whether it's like the fun play or the amazing concert you're going to go to on Saturday night. That does open up space for creation in the way that Avery described. And for us, it's we have one other set of fellowships that has existed for a few decades, and they're the Lily Rosenberg fellowships. They're not residencies. They're just, we think of them as a way to provide um, financial support for a young poet for 1 year of their lives. But those are very particular for young poets. You have to be between the ages of 21 and 31 to be able to apply and get these. So we're like, well, what about everyone else? There are so many poets at all stages of their creative development. And so our partnership with Ragdale is a way to begin addressing that. Well, what about other poets? What are ways that we can meaningfully support creative practice and the development of a creative practice? And residencies were an obvious way to do that. And why Ragdale? Because you're our neighbors. Why not do this locally? Why not? It's a beautiful campus. It's great to be in Lake Forest. Yes, absolutely. But we also want to strengthen our relationships and commitments to other arts partners in the city, in the region. And it made absolute sense to do that with Ragdale.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like to call Ragdale Chicago's residency getaway, because you do feel like you're away, but you're not that far away. Like if something were to happen, especially fortunately for the people based in and around Chicago, is you can dip home if you need to dip home and put out a fire and come back. And I found that extremely helpful. I live in Skokie, and I have a family, I have kids, and I was able to go home and spend a Saturday with them during the residency, because I was there for nearly a month. And you put your life on hold, you prioritize yourself and your self-care in this process. But the ability to be able to touch base with Chicago and hop on the metro and get back into the city, all of that stuff is great. You were in residence in December. I was in residence in February. And so there's a huge part of Ragdale that we weren't able to fully experience, which is the beautiful nature and the campus. And so I wanted to push it over to Regin to kind of give a description of Ragdale and what are some of the amenities or things that Ragdale offers.
I'm Regina Gloria, Director of Education at Ragdale. I use he, him pronouns, and as a visual description, I am a Asian American male who is dressed in a blue shirt and blue pants, and I've got long but ever graying hair. But yeah, in terms of talking about Ragdale, I actually had the fortune of living on campus for 6 years when I was overseeing the residency program. And I consider myself somebody who's very much in tune with nature and love nature. And I think one of the attractions and appeals to artists is that idea of getting away and being in a place that's not like their urban living situation. So immediately when I think of the Ragdale campus, it really is about the proximity to that prairie and having access to, everything from the smells and the sights, the animals, everything that you sort of associate with what you would typically find in nature, it actually exists there. And it's something about the way your mind opens up to possibilities when you're in that kind of environment allows for the creative process to really kind of blossom and kind of take hold. So there are many ways to describe it, because it is a residential suburb. It's very obscure and sort of tucked away off of Green Bay Road, so you wouldn't necessarily think about that access to nature. But I think because of the historic home and the original farmhouse, which was built in 1838, was technically one of the oldest buildings in Lake County. You have this sense of history just sort of embedded in the area. And Alice Hayes, our founder, when she turned it into a residency program, of course, she had spent her entire life, her summers there as a child growing up. She knew immediately the conducive nature to the creative process, because she'd invite all of their creative friends there to basically do what the residencies are doing now and providing that time and space for artists. So yeah, if you can imagine sort of the perfect combination of the freedom to go out and explore, both literally in the space and also psychologically in the work that you're doing in your mind, there's a lot of place to grow and kind of move around. Enough places to be together with other creative types, but also enough space to be on your own and to have a reflective moment as needed. So you combine that with, again, Chef Linda's fabulous dinners. You're very much taken care of, and it just feels like the perfect place to be for a given set of time. And whatever happens there, you want to experience over and over again on some level. So you take a lot of that experience back home when you're not in an official residency, and it repeats itself.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes. So I wanted to kind of give Avery, I know, like, to me, I think one of the things that I found most valuable, besides getting a lot of work done when I was in residence, was the cohort. And Avery touched on it a bit. Just the camaraderie that you have, and really the lessons that you can learn. I learned so much just about the world, about rethinking my craft, from the other residents. And I found that to be one of the most surprising and one of the most valuable things, because this was the first residency I ever attended. And so I went into it with an open mind of like, okay, let's see how this works. And will I get things done? And people talk about the creative spirit that surrounds and engulfs Ragdale. And I really felt that, it's like the work just started pouring out of me. But then it was these nights when you are finished with Chef Linda, and I know we had a holiday event while you were there, and you all were turning up. Like, so don't be shy now. Like, it was a smaller cohort, you know.
You ain't never telling me nothing. No, I was there.
Yes.
No. I mean, we were there during December. So they know, yes, it's a big old prairie outside and all the other good stuff. But we talking Chicago, Lake Forest, at the lake. The lake is like, how many blocks you would say? Right. It seems closer, but lake is right there. It is cold, so we spend a lot of time inside the farmhouse with each other, right? With the fire, and guess he would just go and turn on the fireplace, and we kicked it, and we would like lollygag, but we had such a good time. And I think it was because it was such a small group. If it was a bigger group, it probably would just been not as not as fun as it was. But it was like it's six of us, and we just gonna kick it. And then, I mean, everybody was like really cool, really chill. Only had to, gather one person, one good old time, and that was it. That's all that had to happen. But um, for the most part, we have this synergy that happens when you're around people who are creating. So there's a synergy. So you kind of still, because this is what's happening in this space. All of that creative stuff is accessible. Um, and then you have these people to piggyback ideas and things of that nature. I was telling Michael, so Nancy, I can't remember her last name, was she's fiction writer, and she had taken like a 10-day sabbatical, and she had like this huge revision work to do. Her book agent had told her that she had to switch from teen audience to a preteen audience, and that's like her book then was like, or her manuscript was like 100 something, 40 something pages too long. So she had to do the reworking of it, but I'm looking at her like, oh my god, like how do you do that? Because you can tell that it was hard, like it was hard, and there was things in which she was so concerned about that would come missing from the story to take 140 pages from it, right? poets, you know, our joint is we ain't taking 140 pages to say anything, you know. Yeah, you know, what the fuck? I give about X amount of line. But for a fiction writer, that's surgery, right? And so she had us to bounce this idea. Well, if this is here with, and I was like, you know, Jen Morey told me a long time ago. Who's another poet? Um, the work is the essential language, right? And I was like, you know, go with there and figure what's essential. And when you understand when you make that decision of what's essential, then that task of removing this much language and story from this book. And again, this is not remove 140 pages because the book is horrible for 140 pages, right? This is remove 140 pages so we can sell the book to a different audience, which is to me, it's a whole other like cruelty, level of cruelty because, and then you get exposed to the business that writing is, right? Poets there, for the most part, I was writing something, for they write poems that then they're going to submit to Poetry Magazine or Poets and Writers. It get in or it don't for whatever reason or the other. But and unless you're working on like a full manuscript of poems, right? You know, the the work of the poet is, oh, we're writing for submission, and you kind of know the life and the process of the poem is like, you know, a poem, a glorious poem. Like that's the process of that joint. But like it was her, Hanana was down there with us, and Reagan, and we came up with this. I don't drink, but I learned that writers do. If they not writing on the residency, they drinking. They drinking wine, Hennessy. It don't matter. And so we had this saying, just a splash. Oh, just a splash, you know? And it wouldn't be a splash. Like it wouldn't be a splash. It would just be like, it would be like a whole cup or whatever. But you can, because if you get inebriated, you go to bed. You know, it's you don't then have to like function in this world, you know, merry as we would say. But like it's also the space. I don't know about anybody else's writing philosophy, but a lot of the writing comes because you have to live. Like, and if you don't have the space to breathe and experience and like I said, pause from all this other activity, right? And to come and eat at 6 o'clock and enjoy the wine and cackle the fire, laugh and lollygag, talk to Nancy had a conversation with talking to Ray. One of the characters is disabled. Does this make does it to have that level of camaraderie? And we still talk to each other to this day. We always plan to go to Ingersty's book release, but it got snowed in or whatever. So and it was postponed. But we family. Like it is you build relationships that is, and I'm just assuming that it was easier to build it because we were there when it was cold and we all kind of like forced to be amongst each other. And it's also December, right? Which is holiday time, and then you got people away from family, so that level of needing family is that's part of the energy you know, Nancy turns to and gets and says, "You could be my daughter." I don't know how, but how it worked out. But that's what she felt to say because that's how we were connecting at that table at 6 o'clock. Dinner is everything. Miss Linda, Chef Linda, cooks the dinner, and she's very accommodating. Um, is you the dinner is usually informed by who has the most that they can't eat, as opposed to the person that can eat everything. That's I guess that's her logic. And I mean, it's she don't know this, or I don't think you all think about this at Ragdale, but I can tell you from a person who's been to Ragdale, it is really a thing. It's just a really cool thing to open up a refrigerator and see something that you want, right? That you put on the list, because that also makes signals home, because it will be something that will be in my refrigerator as opposed to something. And Linda is very good at like asking us what should we have in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna get what you all eat, and I'm gonna cook what I cook, and then it's gonna between that road of that is what is because I'm not about to cook 6 different meals for 6 different diets. I'm gonna make whatever happens. Then, but it also gives you just an understanding of making you just aware, right? That a fool can't eat that, right? So when we cooked each other dinner, we were like, nope, that's yours. It don't have that in it because you are allergic. So it just makes you aware of people in the family. Like I said, the camaraderie was really cool because we was in the winter. We was kind of forced, and there's a lot of drinking, and then there's a lot of sharing. There's a lot of sharing ideas, and that builds the opportunities to, hey, when you come to New Orleans, make sure you see me. Hey, when you come to Bangladesh, make sure you see me. You start to now, because you are talking to people who live, or you could be in residence with people who are from all parts of the world, and now you've also got the chance to build network along with this experience of creating with people, which is something that happens during this very specifically during residencies.
Thank you. So I know we want to get to the good part, which is seeing Mr. Avery, our young, perform. But before we do that, I just wanted to just make sure we button up just the physical details of how long is this fellowship support going to last? And Regin, if you had anything to add about the application process, that would be great.
I can do a little bit of those details. So it's 4 residencies for 2023. Applications, like Sam said, are open for just about another week. So through Friday at 11:59 p.m. And there's also a small stipend for those residents to be able to get to Ragdale. So I'll pass the mic to.
Yeah, just as a reminder for those of you in the audience, there's a little slip of paper that has the basic information. It's very typical of the types of materials you need, including a CV, resume, and your statement, and then, of course, work samples. But all of that could be found on submittable.com. That's our application portal. And I am very happy to work with any of you who have any questions or may have issues with using the online portal. But it is fairly straightforward. And like we have been saying, July 15th, that's next Friday, 11:59 is the deadline. And notification will be in September of this year.
Avery are young. We're looking forward to your performance in just a moment. Thank you, Regin and Gloria, and thank you, Idalmi, and we appreciate the support and the hospitality. And thank you all for coming. So we're going to transition to Avery, and please stick around with us. And we're available to talk one-on-one with questions and so forth if you have anything as well. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Here we go. I grew up in Chicago on the west side, and I grew up Baptist. Because my mom and them was Baptist, so that's how it happened. And I'm always reminded of my fourth grade self during the time where we're about to go to school. I mean, we're about to be let out of school for Columbus Day, which is now Indigenous Day. So I can make that be proper with that. But anyway, at the time it was Columbus Day, and I raised my hand in the classroom, and I was like, how do you discover a place that people are already there? And the teacher was like, huh? How do you discover a place and people are already there? How did that work? And she was like, well, it's a European discovery of the Americas. And I was like, well, I've been reading this book called Before the Mayflower. And that's not what happened. Avery, on Friday, when the question is who discovered America, if you put anything else other than Christopher Columbus, I will mark it wrong. I said, well, I'm going to put Christopher Columbus, but it ain't right, you know? So then at home, kicking it, ring, 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 ring. Mother Booker answers the phone. And she's like, Mrs. Booker, I am concerned about the propaganda that Avery is being exposed to. And we both said, propaganda? Avery Baptist. We read King James in this house. And it was a telephone. It was over the telephone, so I didn't see the teacher's face, but I knew she had fucked the whole world up when she said that. She was like, Avery Baptist. We read King James in this house. He don't read no propaganda. I just started laughing. I was like, ooh wee. So that kind of one I was there, but it was sparked my interest in the way the stories of the Bible are these poems, right? These epic poems, because in the King James version of the Bible, right, you have the assignment of William Shakespeare at the time, or who we believe to be Shakespeare because of some other scandal up in there. The assignment is to switch this language over, and I'm always fascinated about what was being translated from this one language to what was him fitting. Proverbs can't be what Proverbs was, because it's pure poems, right? Right? That's my thought. So anyway, with this being said, one of the first verse I learned to say in church was Jesus wept, which is St. John 11:35. And I guess they figure that's what a kid is going to remember. And so they go, Jesus wept. And so this is a piece about that situation. So Donnie is going to start reading, and that's going to be the beginning of this performance. Okay.
Then, when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother has not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus, therefore, again, groaning in himself, cometh unto the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, Lord, by the time he stinketh, for he hath been dead 4 days. Jesus said unto her, Said I not unto thee that, if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldest see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearst me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus said unto them, Loose him and let him go.
Say, Rabbi, have you been here? George would be underground. He say, Rabbi, had you been here? Malaysia would still be around. Tell me, Rabbi, where you be inside this land called now? I say, Rabbi, where you be? Oh, I need you when we need you right now. Whoa, 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 whoa. They say, Rabbi, had you been there, they wouldn't have shot Brianna down. They say, Rabbi, had you been here, Tatiana's body wouldn't have been fine. Oh, Rabbi, where you be? Inside the land called now. Oh, Rabbi, where you be? Inside this land called now. We whoa, and and we whoa, if I were Jesus, I tell you what kind of Jesus I'd be. I too would walk upon water, just to calm a raging sea. If I were Jesus, I tell you what kind of Jesus I'd be. I too would spend 40 days in the wilderness. Look Satan in the eye and say, get behind me. If I were Jesus, I tell you, what kind of Jesus I'd be. I'd name them all Lazarus. Oh, now tell him to come forth. Oh, I named them all Lazarus. Lazarus, and I tell him to come forth. Frederick Vaughn, I would name more Lazarus. Oh, Lazarus, and I tell him to come forth. Kia, Oscar, I name them all Lazarus. Lazarus, and I'll tell him to come forth. Mm-hmm. 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 And the red words come forth. The so yeah, that is what I get to do in the land of residencies and poems. I was in a conversation and in the room, quiet room, we're talking about I'm teaching a black listening. Well, one of four facilitators of a black listening symposium or workshop again that the Poetry Foundation is so graciously helping to sponsor and make happen. And we're talking about the ways in which I've learned listening in a very colorful way as opposed to a Eurocentric way of listening, which is kind of like this, as I was explaining, going to the opera. And the expectation is like when you go to the opera and you Wagner and Bach and all of them. The expectations are really just to sit down and listen, right? And like case in point, if you Wagner, you know, you're hearing stuff in like German and you don't know what is being communicated to you. You just sitting there and you convince yourself of all the things, oh, it's beautiful. This, and and it's really what's coming out, or the way in which the language and emotion is coming out of the singer's mouth, that you have any connection, whether or not it's funny, or if it's sad, painful. But growing up in a space like the Black church, where the evidence of listening is your audible and physical expression. When we say, have you got good religion, the expectation is to say back, certainly, Lord. Like, and if you don't, it's like, what's wrong with you? There's a very rich way, to me, of learning to listen, because to me it makes language way more valuable, right? And it makes the sending of messages more about this transference of energy, right? I'm gonna say something with the expectation that something happens. All right, so with that being said, I'm gonna try to back into that joint one more time. But we're gonna have to get Sunny Mount Zion up Baptist up in here when I do it. All right, so that's all you gotta do. I'm gonna say, I'll name them all Lazarus, and I'll tell them to, and you all say, come forth. Okay? Got that? So now, though, wait a minute. That ain't all I need you to do. I need some of y'all to put your feet like this. Tap your thigh like this. Some ain't gotta be everybody. Here we go. I'll name them all Lazarus. Yes, I will. And I'll tell them to. Yes, come forth. That's all y'all have to say. I'll name them all Lazarus. Lazarus. And I'll tell them to. Come forth, come forth. I name them all Lazarus. Last time, y'all, I'll tell them to come forth. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.